you could sit with that energy and meditate on that and just forget about what I'm saying. I mean, to me, it's more important to commune with the presence, that power of God, than understand anything about spirituality. It really doesn't matter so much about what we know. We could hear 1,000 lectures on theology, spirit, and different approaches to the divine. And yet, if we don't taste it, what's the point? What's the point? For me, the mystical path is about tasting the energy, the power, the grace, a direct, literal experience of divinity. Many scholars have studied religion and spirituality for a long, long time. The question is, are they floating in bliss and love and joy and peace all the time? Are they? It's a big question. What's your internal state? What are you really feeling? So that's why we chant the mantra and do the meditation, to tap in, to touch into that sense. And you know, I do this every day, all the time. I'm trying to remind myself of who I am as soul consciousness. And it's kind of a lot of work because Brian is so dense. He doesn't want to wake up out of the dream of being what you would call an ego or a mind or a body, or he doesn't want to wake up. It takes, you know, when you wake up in the morning and it's really early and just don't want to get out of bed. It's kind of like how we all are. So every time we chant the mantras and do the meditations, we're trying to wake up the soul, the realization of the soul. And why do I say it takes a lot of work? Because for most of us, we have blinded ourselves for many, many lifetimes. You could call them in Sanskrit as samskaras. You heard the word before? Samskara. Layers of karma, feelings of separation from God or the whole. All these layers that veil us from seeing infinity, the infinite one being. That's why we're here at Unity. We're trying to discover that unity. So that's the mystical path, is the pursuit of that direct knowing. And if you read about some of the saints of all religions, originally they were mystics. It wasn't a religion. They were just looking for a God in their own heart, trying to activate that. So, and when I say I practice every day, I mean, if you look at examples of saints as well, they are practicing every day. They've got this intensity of they must find their God, or what they would call their beloved. They can't sleep. They must find. And so much so that some of these saints are crying. Day and night, they're crying, missing their beloved. That's the kind of intensity. I love that. That's why I watch videos of saints all the time, to remind me of that passion. Easy to get lazy. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I'm bored. Let me check my email. How many times can I check my email in one day? From my estimation, probably I've done it there were some days probably I could do it every 10 minutes during the day. So if I was awake for, I don't know what that calculates out to the mathematician, but like a couple hundred times a day, I could check my email, literally. What if someone contacted me? I can't wait. It's such an addiction, isn't it? It's just such a, these cell phones, they've got us. They're our gods, really, if you want to think about it. And it's hard to get, and I recognize it's hard to get out of that addiction, because once it's in your pocket, it's too tempting. It's like having heroin in your pocket. You just want to try it all the time. It's right there. So, there's some solutions to that. One solution would be go on a retreat and leave your cell phone behind, and maybe go for like a week or something, and just do your spiritual practices and forget about your phone. Then when you come back, you'll have detoxified from the addictions of the cell phone, and then maybe for a few days you can handle it. You probably go back to where you were before, but at least for the 7 days, you detoxed yourself. That's why people who get addicted to alcohol, they often go. I had a friend who ran a facility. They had 28 beds or some 30 beds in it. You go there and you can't even have your cell phone there, and you're just, in a way, kind of doing AA meetings and all that constantly all day to get yourself weaned from the addiction to alcohol. It's serious business, no joke, and they pay thousands and thousands of dollars to do this. So, and then when they go home, it's like you can't even have alcohol in your house. It's too tempting. So, cell phones kind of like that. So that listening to the great saints that have gone beyond and hearing about their passion keeps me motivated. So it draws me away from my cell phone and into more spiritually oriented things. Even just this morning, I mentioned to you I had a call with my teacher, Swami Purna. He's sitting right there. He had an online call, and it was only for an hour and a half or so, but his accent's pretty strong, so many people probably can't even understand what he's saying. A lot of it I can't even understand, but I'm telling you, that's not the point. It's the attunement to the frequency that he's emitting. That's where the teaching is. He comes more from a Hindu background, so he talks a lot about Hinduism. You don't have to know nothing about Hinduism and just be on the call and just hear him and know nothing of what he's saying, and you can already feel yourself being uplifted into another dimension. That's satsang. That's the word for satsang. In Sanskrit, sat means truth, sang means gathering. So back in 2012, Swami Purna, I had a meeting with him. It was only a 3-minute meeting, and in that meeting, it was in Miami, Florida. He said to me, Brian, now it's time for you to renounce everything and set off on the road and share satsang, spiritual gatherings with people. At that time, I was running a financial planning business and very successful, living the American dream. And I left all of that to follow his guidance and started traveling from place to place to place, sharing satsang, which is a kind of container of truth, a presence and energy that if you're really sensitive, you can feel. And guess who were the first people that supported my mission, my quest, the gatherings? Unity. Unity was the first. I'm very woo-woo. So not everyone's gonna, and plus, there are a lot of religious organizations, including even yogic Hindu organizations, that don't even want me to come because I'm not exactly following the way they think about spirituality and the way their teacher has structured what it should look like. That would be called a kind of religion, a kind of dogma, if you want to say that. So they don't invite me in to talk. But I'll tell you a secret. Unity likes woo-woo. It's true. It's true. So I'm so grateful for Unity for being that open to invite me in. Because I literally don't have a religion. This is just Brian's feeling. My own direct experience of spiritual energy and presence that I like to share with other people because it's so powerful for me. I transformed so radically through my connection with the energy. I have to share it with people. I've become obsessed. You know, when the energy comes so powerfully, it just pours over onto other people naturally. So I'm supposed to be traveling and sharing. And I don't really want to settle down in one place. Like I like to go from place to place and like plant seeds like a garden. You know, you plant a little seed and you wait for a couple months and sometimes it sprouts into a beautiful flower. So wow, that's like spiritual energy. Planting spiritual seeds in your heart, not just your heart, but your literal physical body, your emotions, your mind, your thoughts. Everything gets sort of touched by this spiritual presence, and you transform. You become a different person. Different person in the sense of, I used to have a low-grade depression, a lot, pretty much all the time. Low-grade, you know, probably since I was a little kid until however old, I don't know, 40 or something. Finally, age 40, like something clicked and it's like, oh my God, I'm happy. I'm happy. And I didn't even know that I had the low-grade depression until I experienced the contrast of happiness. Do you see what I'm saying? You don't know that you're unhappy until you experience another level of happiness. That's so powerful. You're like, what was I thinking back then? That wasn't true happiness. So it's like different levels. And, you know, spirituality, it's like digging for potatoes. You ever done that? You dig a little bit in your garden, you find a potato. I don't know, Idaho potato? Oh my gosh, I found it so excited just to find a potato, you know. You keep digging a little bit deeper. You find another potato. You get even more excited. Spirituality is like that. As you start to do your practices and you attune to the energy, these beautiful virtues start to blossom. Imagine just like this incredible fragrance of love that's intoxicating, that when you feel it, you want to cry. It's so beautiful. And you walk around and you just, I love you, man. You love everyone. It doesn't even matter who did what to you in the past. It's easy to forgive when your heart awakens and you feel that love. No matter how cruel that person was back then, it's easy to let it go and say simply, they didn't know what they were doing. If you don't have connection to spiritual energy, it's really hard to be loving. It's like a struggle. You have to like think, how do I be loving in this situation? You know, you have to like kind of analyze it. Your mind gets involved. What's the loving thing to do? And what would Jesus do? You know, it's that you're getting already into your mind. It's not a natural love. It's not an outpouring. So love is just not about like how do you figure out how to become loving and then force yourself to be loving in the situation. In a way, it's kind of inauthentic. It's more about, let me be in an environment where the energy is washing over me and clearing my heart and clearing my body and clearing my emotions. And then when I go out into public and see people, I'm naturally loving because the light is infused in me. And so I treasure satsang above everything else. You know, when I really got into these spiritual gatherings, I remember tuning to this one particular teacher. He had 3 gatherings a week. I was living in Austin, Texas. I didn't miss a single one. I would quit my other activities and other responsibilities to go there first. That's how serious. That was primary, number one. In a way, maybe that's the difference between a monk versus a normal, so-called normal person. A normal person doesn't take spirituality as priority. A monk takes it as number one. This is it, everything. So yes, I left everything and started sharing, and the energy was immediately apparent and beautiful and inspiring. And the great thing about like sharing spirituality with people is you can't be a hypocrite. You have to walk that which you are talking about. Otherwise, you're pretending. Otherwise, you're just a plain old philosopher or a theologist, is that the word? Someone who speaks about theology. Empty. So this has kind of kept me on track, so I don't get lost in Netflix. Thank God I don't have a subscription to Netflix. I'd be in trouble. So that's satsang, and now it's been 13 years, and I spoke to Reverend Carol over the phone, and we had a lovely conversation. And I love that she's just so open to new things, new ideas. Right away, I could feel like that openness. And you know, I'll tell you, going into Unity congregations, there's usually even someone who will house me while I'm in town. I didn't really need housing this time, because there's a lady who's housing me in West Hills. You know where West Hills is. There's a yoga studio there that she houses me there. But someone will inevitably open up their doors and say, Brian, we'd love to have you stay at our house. They've never met me. And they bring me into my home, into their home. I'm calling it my home, because after a while it's like, no, it's my home, at least temporarily. And I maybe stay there for a week. And you know, they'll say, Brian, can we make you meals? What do you like to eat? What's your diet? I meet so many amazing people like that. Like that'd be a golden age if I could just walk across the continent and just say, I have no home, will you help me? And normally they would slam the door, at least in this society, and say, we don't know you. Which is kind of sad, but it's a kind of more fear-based society. And you know what I did to try to solve that problem? A lady suggested to me to create what you call a testimonial page for hosts. So then I started to get some of my hosts that I stayed with to write testimonies, and we take pictures of a selfie, you know? And then I post on that. So that way, if I came into town, they said, well, we mistrust you, we don't know you, no one can house you. Well, then I chose, well, look at this. Here's a testimonial page. And I'm with all these different families. And like, oh, wow, he looks like a wholesome guy. Not so dangerous. And that's how I did it. That was the advice of this one lady. I took her up on it. So that's kind of how I try to overcome that. So I would say that my sort of final message here regarding the sort of mystical path is this. To discover the soul, it takes intensity and hard work. Spirituality has to be your priority. If it's just Sunday service, it's not enough. Taking the practices home with you, and every single day making your intentions to develop those beautiful virtues that we're trying to grow into. Crucial, because once you get off that momentum, you can go right down into, I will call, laziness, laziness. I don't want to look at myself. I don't want to look at my issues and try to work out my stuff. So I'm just going to try to escape it through whatever addiction. I make fun of Netflix and Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff, but those are just representations of distractions that we have because we don't want to deal with our own internal self. So this sort of self-reflection and purification is so important. How can I let go of all the anxiety and the worry and the fear of, let's say, not having enough? You know why we're not generous? Because we don't think we have enough. I can't give a certain amount because I might not have enough for myself. You think God thinks like that? God is endlessly giving. Think that way. Develop that, because what will happen? The more one gives, the universe naturally wants to give to you. The universe says, oh, I love that. She's giving and giving and giving. I want to support that being of light who wishes to keep the flow going. So, keeping our flow going, so important. And so, after the service today, I'll be holding a special event. I would love it if people could come. I'd say the more people that come, the more powerful it will be, because everyone is collectively focused on spirit. So it's almost like an intensive. You know, your concentration and meditation will help your neighbor. That's how group gatherings work. And that's called Sangha. Sangha means a group of people that gather together. They're like-minded in trying to find their soul. So, and I'll be playing the harmonium and introducing a few more chants and stuff, and then maybe you could take some of the practices home with you and continue on with your regular, what I call sadhana, or spiritual practice, your daily practice. So I wanted to thank you all for having me, inviting me, and namaste.